got one for the tire on there.
Isn't that tomorrow? It never looks.
I took my one.
I understand. I feel the pain completely. Yeah. Never looks the same. For some reason.
Oh, yeah. I thought it was
You can't.
Maybe it just feels that way because it wasn't a good long time.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to. But
You want my sweatshirt?
You don't want the.
Hey, Annie. Okay.
yeah, I just had to take it easy. I made it.
Okay, welcome everybody. We will start the city council meeting for August 14th. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I invited Thor.
He didn't come? You should pray for him.
Oh, okay.
Thomas, you should be praying for him.
Thomas, I like that.
My mom did not like that.
Even though she gave it to you?
No, it's not.
Do we have any corrections to the agenda?
Madam Mayor, we have one addition. Resolution 2023-76, approved task order number 10 with Bollig Engineering.
Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
First and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there anybody here in the public that would like to talk about something that is not on the agenda? Okay, moving right along.
Yes, we are.
That's part of Mary Ann,
Are they part of the public comments?
they're going to go under public.
Okay. You guys are up.
Hi, I'm Mary Ann Ankrum. I'm on the Parks Committee or Parks Board, and we've been talking about this sign for the Central Park for several years, and we finally come up with a what we think would be a good sign for the park, and it's the Central Park like this, and then on the back side of the sign we've got a little verbiage of the history of the park. And we're excited about it. We'd like to get it put up before Labor Day weekend. We've got an anonymous person that said they'll take care of the price of the sign. So we hope that we can have your support for the sign. Any questions?
I think it looks great.
What material?
It's going to be an aluminum, a heavy aluminum core sign. It's going to be very sturdy. We went with everything that would be very sturdy because we want it to last for a long, long time.
And what's the size that's being proposed?
4 by 8.
4 by 8.
Yep, just what we've been talking about the whole time, yep.
Yeah.
And where is it going?
It would be on the
Southwest.
southwest corner of Central Park,
Or that rock.
Towards the bank.
on the opposite
Bank
That
corner.
interest?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yep,
Facing southwest.
correct. At an angle.
That's awesome.
Any other questions?
Mary Ann, am I correct that you have someone lined up to install the sign as well?
Shane said that he would install it. Is that correct, Shane?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay with you, Marianne? If you
that'd be great. I'm ready to go. I really want to get this sign up before Boxcar Weekend. They have activities there. I think it'd be a perfect sign to have it there and let people know we're doing something to try to move along with the park. So I hope I get your support.
You have your well, I shouldn't say that for everybody, but
Thanks and God bless our country
Thank you.
and community.
Is that part of our,
It's down.
down the bottom? Okay, consent calendar?
I'll make a motion to approve the July 24th council minutes and the July 28th special council minutes. Approve municipal accounts payable and payroll without breakthrough beverage. Approve resolution 2023-68. Approve the gambling permit for St. Mary's for February 17th, 2024. Assuming all fees are paid, approve resolution 2023-69, amend the 2023 fee schedule for the mower. And approve resolution 2023-75, approve the street closure for the street dance sponsored by the Old Bank, as long as all fees are paid.
Where is that? Is that gonna be here, the street closure yet, or?
Third Street.
So it'll be where the old bank was, or the old bakery, across the street to the newer old bakery, and south to South Street.
About a half a block.
Yeah.
Do we have a second?
I will second that.
Okay, first and second, although, wait,
I have a question. So there's a street dance, and they'll have, what, tables set up and everything for people. Would they then be drinking out in the street? Is that how we do it? Well, yeah. Okay. That would make sense of where the people are sitting.
Does
I
that
just
come out of
wanted to clarify.
the old bank building, or does that come out of the chamber
It's
tent?
the Old Bank.
The old bank.
Yeah.
Old bank will,
They're responsible for cleanup and setup and I think we usually provide some barricades, but that'd be about it.
has anybody checked with the chamber? Did they kind of use that street dance as a fundraiser? Is that gonna come into their stuff?
This is later, I think.
This is in September.
This is at the
Oh,
end of
September,
September.
okay.
Yeah.
I had the wrong date in mind, I guess, sorry.
I think they did it last year for sure. didn't they? Or the year
They've
before?
done it
It's
for,
Bonnie and Clyde.
Bonnie and Clyde used to do it at least once a year.
Anybody check with the police to see that they were comfortable? Comfortable.
any other questions? Roll call, please.
Arvizo,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Dobson,
Yes.
Jones,
aye.
Van Dyke,
Aye.
Teets,
Aye.
Mayor Corbin.
Aye.
I'll make a motion to approve municipal accounts payable to Breakthrough Beverage.
I'll second that.
First and second, any discussion on that? Roll call, please.
Van Dyke,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Dobson,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Arvizo,
Yes.
Mayor Corbin.
Aye. Mayor Council communication?
So we gotta set a public hearing for the second reading of ordinances. Ordinance 383, 384, and 385. I guess we can set these at the same time if you wish. They do have to be approved separately though, as each individual item. A motion and second for each and approval, so I don't know if you have any questions on that.
So this is the first hearing and we need to set a date for the second hearing?
So this is the second.
This is the second now?
Yeah, because the first one is waived. I believe that's an emergency
Right,
ordinance, so.
so the public hearing will be held, I think Matt suggested September 11th at 6:30 for all three.
Is that the first meeting in September then?
Yep,
You wanna do 6:45?
no, we always do
6:30 now?
Yep, then you can do it as soon as you can.
So we just need a motion tonight to set the second reading.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to set the second reading of the ordinances 383, 384, and 385 for September 11th at 6:30.
So it'd be
Oh, sorry.
public hearing of the second reading,
Sorry.
but it has to be, we need a motion for each individual one. We'll have to do 383 and then vote on it from 3.
Start talking, Tom. All right, I'll make a motion to set the public hearing for the second reading of the ordinance 383.
I'll second.
First and second, any other discussion for that one? Roll call, please.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Jones,
Aye.
Teigs,
Aye.
Landay,
Aye.
Arvisu,
Yes.
Dobson,
Yes.
Mayor Corman.
Aye.
Suppose I should have said the date on that too, for September 11th.
11th.
I'll make a motion to set the public hearing for the second reading of ordinance 384 from September 11th at 6:30 PM.
Second.
First and second, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Jones,
Aye.
Landay,
Aye.
Teigs,
Aye.
Arvisu,
Yes.
Dobson,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Mayor Corman.
Aye.
So then I'll make a motion to set the public hearing for the second reading of ordinance 385 and for September 11th at 6:30.
I'll second that.
Roll call, please.
Wait a minute, I got a question for the
Aye.
police. I didn't hear you say it.
I didn't, but I've never, nobody ever said anything. I'm like, so.
Well, I
No.
wanted to ask Jason how he's gonna handle this. Does he have a game plan for us?
A game plan for the hearings,
No.
or for the ordinance in general? I read through the ordinance today and it seems, yeah, I read through the ordinance today and it seems pretty standard to what other cities are putting out right now, so,
You're comfortable with what's going on?
yes.
That's what I wanted to hear, or didn't want to hear, whatever. but
Okay.
I'm ready.
All right, any other questions? Roll call, please.
Arvisu,
Yes.
Jones,
Aye.
Teigs,
Aye.
Landay,
Aye.
Dobson,
Aye.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Mayor Corman.
Aye.
All right, we got 7B, city administrator position finalists. You know, three of you that are on that committee know who those people are. I sent an email out here late today with the applications. If you want to look at those quick here before we move forward here, you can. Means I sent them pretty late in the day here, but basically we got candidate A and B at this point. They have not been notified as finalists at this point until the council is comfortable with moving forward with second interviews for these two individuals. So I don't know if you guys have any questions, comments.
And the feeling of the committee is that both of these candidates have, could be potential good fits and well qualified for the position. Is that correct?
They're the best two applicants that we've got for out of the applicant pool to date. So I don't know.
I think we feel comfortable. That's why we're bringing them forward as the two finalists, our recommendation for the two finalists. But we want the council to have an opportunity to interview them also to see what your feelings are. And we also intend on getting input from department heads also. We can't make the names public right now until they're notified that they are finalists and they accept to come for the second interview. So right now, I mean, you guys, if you haven't had a chance to look at the applications, that's totally fine, because we're just asking for permission to bring them forward, so now everybody can interview. Not that a decision has been made, we want the input of the full council before a decision's made. So we're just asking for the blessing and that we can set a date so we can then call the or not we, Shane can call the candidates and set that second interview.
And these two individuals are from a field of how many applicants originally?
5.
5. Okay.
And I think that's, I don't think that we felt it was our responsibility to determine whether or not the field of applicants were fully qualified, but to grade the ones that we received those that seem to be of a level that we would, rather than at that point in time have the council make a decision, rather than the small group rule out. So that's, I don't think we're making a recommendation saying that we as a small group are putting forward these with any kind of recommendation other than that these were the two best candidates of the final that we looked at. Now, does that sound right?
I think the main thing right now is to then give the blessing so that Shane can contact them. And then we have a date to recommend that we do the interviews.
Well, what is it?
Next Monday, the 21st, we were tentatively scheduled to have a budget work session that day or that evening. And so instead of do the budget work session, to do these interviews and push the budget work session back to, we're hoping if it'll work for everybody on Wednesday, the 23rd, because we don't want to push the budget too far back either. But we thought right now we needed to get that date set so that Shane can call the candidates and get them lined up to come for the interview with the full council.
And that was just a suggestion. It could be
Yeah.
Tuesday, it could be, I guess,
Well, we could use the Monday, Wednesday dates if the candidates can't, one of them can't make it on Monday, can they both make it Wednesday, and we could do the budget on Monday?
Whatever works for them.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's got to be an open meeting when we do the interview, because it is a quorum. So we would have to publicize, 3 days ahead to have that public meeting on.
Well,
But we should know
yeah,
by,
if he makes a call tomorrow or the next day.
Yeah.
So that was my question. If we know by tomorrow, I'll ask the question there's line to ask. Would those names be available then by press?
so they could be,
Well, can I speak? If the finalists are named, then I need the names of the
Yep.
finalists.
And as soon as Shane talks to him, that's the intent, that he will call you probably before your deadline tomorrow. So you could
Because
get that published.
that's standard procedure with
Yep.
when finalists.
We just
are
don't
named.
want to,
they need to know before
because we haven't talked to the two finalists.
because if they say no, then we're starting all over.
Or if they say they're not ready for that information.
But when the finalists are
Yeah.
named,
Yep.
then
You get the.
they come to me.
As long as they
We'll find
say, yep, they will do that that final interview, Shane then will get you the names.
That's why I'm hoping that we have that before your press release this week.
And the resumes and the background.
All the public information.
Right.
Yep.
Right. So you're going to contact them tonight?
I'll provide that with you hopefully tomorrow morning.
Okay. I don't want to be a thorn, but
Nope.
No, I think
We've already talked about
that's the
your
law.
fair.
No,
I mean,
as of right now,
Oh,
they're
we
not
know that.
named, so they're candidate A and candidate B, so, until they have approval that they wanna continue on, then they're not a finalist, so.
But I think it's important to have it for this week so that if individuals
Correct,
have
yep.
questions, they can be at that meeting.
well, it's
Because if we're gonna interview them if they
It's-
do
it's a-
accept, then you interview them next week, you don't want them in the paper this week, so.
it's a big transparency thing because I'm getting asked left and right
Yeah.
where we're at with this.
And it's a tight time frame right now, because Shane couldn't call them before this because we had to have council approval that we could bring them forward. So as soon as the meeting is done today, if we don't last till real late, the candidates could possibly both be contacted tonight. If not, Shane's intent is then first thing tomorrow. So if that gives us incentive to move the meeting along tonight, then we can get you the information tonight.
Another thing that would be appreciated, yeah, but that's beside the
Our
point.
intent is Tuesday before your deadline. So you can get it in,
You don't know when my deadline is, though,
isn't it Tuesday?
all due respect. Well, yeah, it's Tuesday, but
He's got to write something.
I have to have time to put a story together because this is not a piece of news that people are ignoring. This
No.
is something that people are actually upset about, not knowing what's going on because it's been a while since Mr. Hanson left.
With all due
And I-
respect, people gotta understand, you can't be giving names out till they say yes.
And
Well, when finalists are named by the council, then
They're not.
they're not named.
But
They're not named.
Have you heard a name? There's not a name.
They're
But-
not named as of yet.
They're not named until they accept it.
They cannot be named until they're accepted, so. I just went over.
Bad
this
deal.
with our attorney before this meeting, so.
Okay.
But we will, and we promise to provide it to you, so as soon as I can, I'll get it to you.
when you do that, can you give me the resumes and
Yep.
whatnot, the backgrounds of these two
Yep.
people?
And I'll block out all the information that is not public, and I'll get that over.
Well, that's common procedure.
Yeah,
But
just like I did before, so.
yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Right.
so yeah, we're not trying to keep anything from,
No, I'm not implying as such, but
yeah.
I dealt with stuff like this in another city and got blindsided by it. I'm not saying you guys are going to do that to me, but it has been known to happen. Because
Doesn't hurt to bring things forward as a question, make sure we
Yeah.
realize our ducks are in a row. But we did talk to Matt to make sure that this was how we needed to do it, because we knew it was going to be a tight turnaround for you to be able to get something in the paper this
Mhm.
week.
And we could not,
And I think it's a good thing that people are bugging me about it because
Yeah.
they want to know.
absolutely.
They deserve to know.
Yep.
Once those finalists are named.
And it's only been 2 weeks since the cutoff of the application, so I mean, it's not like we're wasting a
Not
whole
right.
lot of time here. It's only been 2 weeks, the committee's
Mhm.
met twice, I think, on it. So
Okay.
we're doing our best to keep it moving forward, so.
Okay. Well, this is my warning shot to you, Shane, if you get a text from me
Yeah.
to remind you. All due respect, of course.
A warning shot.
It's just a figure of speech.
Oh, okay.
I'm used to orange shots.
Oh, I'd like to thank the interview committee for the work they've done so far, and I'm looking forward to interviewing the candidates. Do you have a format in mind for the actual interviews, assuming we have 2 people?
I will send out to the council the interview questions that we kind of came up with initially. The committee kind of came up with a few to start with, and then if anyone wants to add anything to that, then I'll compile a total sheet with all the input on it, and then we'll have that for that 21st, if that's what we're gonna do for an interview date.
Well, if I understand you right, there'll be the same questions you already asked them?
There'll be,
No.
no,
Because they won't be all of, I think we narrowed down from, I don't know, 23 questions or whatever down, but I think we wanted to ask those in the same, that in a group of all 7 of us, so you could hear what their responses, because only 3 of us heard the answers to those questions, council members, so.
And then the
we kind of
public.
combined a couple,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
get
to
it.
condense it down, because we don't want the interview lasting multiple hours either.
I think you guys done a great job, thank you.
So what time we planning on starting then? 6:30?
We go
We're-
6.
We were
I think
thinking
we said
the
6.
first one would be 6, the second one would be 7.
30?
And it's kind of coordinating, Shane's gonna coordinate that one of the applicants, if both applicants agree to come, one will be touring fire hall, city works department, that kind of thing, to meet department heads and get an idea what are, they've already driven by, but they've never been inside to see.
Sounds good.
So the 21st,
That's what we need to
Either 21st or.
try to set, if the 21st, does that work for everybody at 6 and 7?
I think we need to make it work.
It does for me. I think there should be a little more time between the interviews, 6 and 7.
6 and 7:30.
Yeah, that's fine.
On that note, we have a budget session set for that night currently. You have any suggestions? You wanna do like the 23rd? I don't know. See if I got the right year. Yeah, this one's right.
Can we- Everybody free on Wednesday?
The 23rd at 6 o'clock. Right now, the library is not available on the 21st anyway, and neither is Val for that budget meeting. So if the 23rd works for everybody at 6, or if you guys suggest another date that would work better, we could do the budget meeting then. I just have to check with Val.
It needs to be in the library.
It doesn't have to be, no.
I just asking.
That's just where we've had it in the past.
Works for me.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
I'm available.
So 23rd at 6. Dave, you good with that?
Right, the library?
The library?
Yeah.
Library.
And Val said it was available on the 23rd. So.
Okay. And the 21st will be here,
Correct, yep.
council chambers.
Okay, with that, I think if you guys are all ready, Tyler, you get the stage.
Good evening, everybody.
My wife said your pickles were very good.
Oh, good. Well, tonight I'm presenting the preliminary budget for the city of Tracy for 2024. Been working on it for the last 2 or 3 months, and I'm just going to give you kind of a general overview. I'm not going to go account by account, expense by expense, revenue by revenue, but just going to give you a kind of a broad overview, get into a little bit of detail. And where is that? Got that clicker over there, Diane? Thank you very much.
Alright, this doesn't look.
Pages,
Just keep scrolling, it's past all of
It
that.
doesn't say it.
Page 41, 42.
Oh, yours looks different. Okay, you're good then.
Like, that's not working.
Safe move.
Oh, I gotta turn this thing on. That'll do it.
There you go, nice.
All right. So some assumptions that I made. First, we agreed to the 5% levy increase, so that's what is reflected in the budget here. I assume that the airport hangars will be completed. It may go into 2025, but the budget reflects that they'll be completed into 2024. That SCADA will be completed, that the remaining hospital balance will be spent. That's not likely because there's still some $340,000, but they're allowed to spend it if they decide to. You think it will be, Jerry? Okay. They spent a lot this year, that's for sure.
Got a lot of big projects.
That department heads will receive step increases. That there will be a 3% increase in solid waste charges. I went through the fee schedule item by item. I just looked at fees that hadn't been increased for a long time, and one of those was the solid waste, and I thought that it would be responsible to do small increases annually rather than one giant bump if we get a new contract in 2026 with Southwest Sanitation and all of a sudden they need to charge us more. I kind of like the idea of just small increases kind of keeping up with inflation. But in the end, that's up to you, just an idea. And then also continuing to subsidize the ambulance is another assumption.
So you said the hangars may not be completed until 25. When would our portion be due? How soon after completion are we putting funds up front or after it's all done?
After the hangar's completed, we would, there may be, if we can't cash flow it, we may have to get like a temporary construction loan during the process, but all the funds will be available by, for sure, the second half of 2025. So be a short period in there where we're short on funds. It's not a huge dollar.
I'm just trying to figure out if we're having issues with the 2024 budget, if one of these two, either the SCADA or the airport hangars, wouldn't even be in 24, are we,
Well,
are we being overzealous?
I think you've already accounted for the revenues from the grants in there too, so really, it's not really gonna matter, because the grants will hit 24 and 25 if it's spent in 24 or 25, or just 2024, if that makes sense.
I just didn't know if we could spread some of it from one year to the next.
So the revenue side is whether you spread it out with the grants and spread it out with the expenditures, it's still gonna be the revenue coming in, revenue going out. It's just gonna be either 24 or 24 and 25. So they wash each other out, basically, is what.
All right. Continuing on, just looking at the overall picture, revenues and expenditures, $8,916,000 in revenue, $9,123,000 in expenditures, and that gives us about a $206,000 deficit. And most of that is found in the capital projects fund and the EDA fund. Looking at the general fund, there's quite a bit to look at here, but the highlights are that the local government aid went up about $75,000 in 2024. That was very good to see, some 8%. And then another highlight, high interest rates increased miscellaneous revenue a lot. So miscellaneous revenue, our budget in the past was $71,000. Now we're expecting $145,000 in 2023, and then we're budgeting $143,000 for 2024.
Would you repeat that? Where is that miscellaneous revenue coming from?
Right here. That's from our investments. We invest excess money with Ellers.
Interesting.
So just
Higher interest rates.
Yep, the higher interest rates that we're seeing. And I think last year we actually ended up with a negative amount somehow, with how interest was grouped with costs of bonds. And so we weren't seeing any revenue in miscellaneous revenue last year. So pretty cool to see that kind of revenue coming in.
Is there a reason you went from the 2022 budget versus 2022 actual?
That's what I was gonna ask, could we get that in, or is that actual, or is that budget for 2022?
That's the budget. And you'd like the actual?
Of
Yeah.
2022 would be helpful, yeah.
Sure. I don't.
That just tells me more.
Yep, I have that in the Excel spreadsheet. That has a ton of detail in it. But just for this chart, all I have is that. I can plug it in, and when would you want to see that?
Just at our workshop would be
I have
even
the
fine.
spreadsheet too, if you wanted to see it now. Is that on that spreadsheet, or is it on a different one?
It's on the spreadsheet in great detail. To get it to look like this
okay.
would take me a little bit of time.
Wait for
At
the
the next
workshop.
meeting.
I think that'd be helpful.
budget.
Yep.
Sounds good?
Thank you.
Yep. And then half of the ambulance contract is coming from the general fund. That's estimated at $28,000. I know that there was some talk about whether we're going to continue with that or not.
When you say half, 28 is the total amount for,
It is the total?
yeah.
This year it was.
Yeah.
Okay. I just read that in a prior budget description, that 28,000 was half of what was going to the ambulance. I don't know where the other half was coming from the hospital or somewhere. But I was just going off something I'd read in the past.
Total amount.
We committed to 28, and we committed, did we just do 1 year, or did we do 2?
We just did a 1 year last
But we
year.
had some extra money that was originally $200,000. We had some extra money to devote to that from the $200,000 that came from the sale of the hospital. It was supposed to go toward community health needs. And
Okay.
And that's what I was wondering, did we spend this year, are we spending the last of that $200,000?
I've never run into a $200,000 amount like that. And we have,
It's gone down every year, but that. 'cause
is it
we-
the amount devoted to the hospital?
No, it was for this, when Sanford bought the hospital and that, a certain percentage went into this fund that Seth's discussing or talking about that was to be used for community health needs, whatever
Okay.
the council decided it should be used for. It has slowly been used because some was given to the ambulance to purchase a new ambulance. I can't remember what year, yeah, 5, 6, 7 years ago. And then there was still some left. And then when the ambulance started asking for an annual dollar amount, that's where it was taken from, was that account.
Okay.
Now, I don't know the name of the account or the number of the account for you to be able to look to see if there's something left in it.
The only account that I've come across, and I've been through every single account, is the one that has the money that goes towards the hospital, that whenever they have like a construction thing that's going on.
Because that can't be touched by the city.
Right.
But this other one was in the city's control.
Oh, okay.
And I was
For
thinking,
medical related.
yes.
I know from
I
my
was thinking we still had like half the dollar amount left in that, but I'd have to go back to last year's.
Well, I would say that if it's all entwined within our general fund, whether half of it came out or didn't have to come out, 28 is what we're committed to, 28 will come out of the general fund in next year for 2024.
We still had
Probably
some
don't
left.
have any money.
There was some left, because we didn't drain it last year.
I want to say there's like 6. I don't know.
I'm thinking there was.
I mean, I
like-
think it's something you might want to look into before our next budget session.
Okay.
Right now, to include the 28,000 coming out for this purpose, I think is fine, because we are going to pay the 28 no matter
Where it comes from.
where it comes from.
Okay.
So I think a lot of,
But what we need to know is if it's from that account, then not as much has to come out of the
I think untwining.
general.
Trying to figure out, because my understanding in talking with some department heads too, is that each of the departments up until 4 years ago had some individual accounts, some set aside for fire, some has been set aside for police, some have been set aside for public works, and our last administrator rolled all those in, brought them all into general fund, and I'm wondering if that's the same that happened with these funds, that they just got.
No, I don't think
It's in a
so.
It's in a separate fund.
Well, let's see what you can find, Tyler.
Yeah, I'll
I
look.
know you've been through,
Yeah, I'll look on the server too and see if I find any mention of it, because there's a hospital folder in our server. So I'll see what I can find before our next meeting.
So
Thank you.
I'm going to ask, the 28,000 is what we're going to budget somewhere to give to the ambulance. Is that, did they have a request? Was this an ongoing thing?
this was their request, I think.
It was a
I-
request last year. We
Yeah, I
know
don't
what the
think we
request
know
this
what the
year.
request is this year.
I know it went up between 2022 and 2023. It went up like maybe $2,000. So it might go up a little bit again, I would guess.
Yeah, that's my question, if we've communicated with them, or just going based on what we committed to last year.
I'm not
This is just
aware that
based
they
off of
have-
last year.
I don't think we've received a invoice or a formal request from them for this year yet, or for 24.
Or what? Charlie dropped something by, so I don't know if it was for this or if it was for the last one.
Dropped it by,
Dropped it by me, so I'll look and see if it's the actual,
okay.
I'd like an invoice.
I was just gonna say, why is he,
Yeah.
I mean, the invoice should go to
Yeah.
the city.
I don't know if there's a copy of last year's or what it was.
But we should plan. We're gonna be paying it, whether it's
Yes,
okay.
yeah, so it's fine.
Good to know.
For what you're presenting tonight.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I'll continue on then. Just wanted to mention, if we were to decide to do a 7% increase in the tax levy, it would give an extra $28,567 in revenue. So, I mean, here, it doesn't look like we need that in the general fund, but like I mentioned in the prior slide, there's a $206,000 deficit in the budget right now. And we can't just leave the capital projects fund in almost a $200,000 deficit.
Well,
So
How did we get to?
how are you going to propose to remediate that? Because capital fund, projects fund, is that like equipment reserve? Or is that to pay our bonds?
No, that's for equipment reserve.
It's the next where it says discretionary spending.
Yep, I'll be getting to it in a little
Yeah.
bit. We can talk about what we want to spend on and what we don't, and if we want to go in the hole or not. So, all right, I'll continue on. So discretionary spending, next slide. There is a $195,750 deficit in the capital projects fund, and well, that's because there's really no revenue coming in. The only revenue I have budgeted is approximately $5,500 for the sale of the police cruiser that is going to be replaced next year. And I didn't include that here in the slide, even though it's in the budget, because at our last budget session, it had been approved as far as I could tell, because we were getting the $90,000 grant, and then everyone had agreed that the $72,000 cruiser was okay to purchase next year. Is that correct? So I didn't include that here on the slide because it's not something that we're going to scratch. But what we do have here, there's the paint the pool features, $70,000. Fire department backup generator, $30,000. Turnout gear, $14,000. Specialized rescue tools, $7,500. Police office remodel, $12,000. Cemetery mower, $12,000. Library books, $7,750. Care program, which is the art projects, like the lady who came in the other meeting and was sharing what she was working on. $5,000 if we wanted to continue that next year. There's a donation to the ambulance, which you guys have expressed is not discretionary. We're gonna spend it. And then whether or not we want to spend the money to retire the old liquor store. So I don't know what's important to you guys here and what is not.
Is this, so this is proposed discretionary spending in 2024?
Correct.
The department heads have not put their complete, have you guys done your complete budgets for 2024 yet?
No, that's the intent of Wednesday's council meeting is workshop to go over that and then rate each item as a council and department head that same night. So
Okay, so this may
Department
change.
heads will be there?
yep.
This is a lot of hypothetical, I think, right now, because it hasn't been the department heads that have said that they need this and that these are the priorities and stuff like that.
Well, these are the capital projects that were presented to me
Yes, by our past administrator.
by the department heads
This year?
this year. Yep. Yep, I got Excel spreadsheets with their capital improvement projects and then their budget for the other accounts, and I put in their capital projects into the budget, but I put in all of them. I don't think we're going to be able
So
to
we
do
haven't
all of them.
They haven't prioritized.
We haven't prioritized them.
And these are actually carryovers from last year's
Right.
budget. The department heads haven't met to actually provide what they really need this year.
Oh, okay.
For the coming year. That's the intent of next week's workshop too.
So this may change dramatically.
So it may change, it may not. Depends on, because every year they submit kind of a 5-year plan of what needs to be replaced. So when Eric put this together initially, it was for, he just took the second year of the 5-year plan or stuff that wasn't approved last year, he moved it to this year. So they may not be needs this year. they may be more needs this year, so that's, I'd say that's kind of the intent of that workshop, is to go through this part of it, so.
Can I beg for forgiveness? I just want to go back one slide where you, under the revenue.
Yep.
Just when Jan talked about it, it made me think about, and not revenue expenditures, where it says debt service. We're only budgeting 5,400.
Out of the general fund. Yep. So we have debt service funds, and that's where most of it comes out of, but then there's also large portions that'll be coming out of the water, sewer, and storm sewer. So that's not the whole amount.
Well, it's just, I see we were pretty consistent with 59,000 for the last few years, why we would drop down to 5,000.
There's one that,
I didn't know if a decimal point got
Is
missed.
it the league loan?
yeah,
So
for
the
the
League of
fire
Minnesota
truck, was it?
Cities in 2018, we got an emergency loan, that's a 5-year loan, that just got paid off here last month, I think, so.
Okay.
So now that dropped off, so.
Yeah, it was like a $55,000
Good. I'm
payment.
glad it's not off a decimal point or something.
Another thing I wanted to mention is some of you mathematical folks might have noticed that this isn't a 5% increase, because we're talking about a 5% increase in the tax levy, right? But a larger percentage had to go to an increase in the debt service, and so this is not 5%.
Well, and that's what I guess I wanted to ask that question too, I forgot. How come we jumped, I mean, we budgeted 12 for 2022, we only had 78 in license and permits. How are we getting 18?
Which line are you looking at, sorry?
Licenses and permits,
Okay, yep.
we had budgeted 12,200 for the whole year. Expected is only 78. Why would we think that that's gonna jump to 18?
I think the fees themselves are going up, if I remember correctly, for the different licenses.
That
So,
much?
I think that expected might not be accurate, because the expected, I fixed most of them, but what I do is I take what's been spent, or what's come in so far this year, divide by the number of months that have gone by, and then multiply by 12. But then that doesn't work for all categories. And it definitely wouldn't work for licenses and permits, because most of that comes in at the end of the year. And so I may have made a mistake there and not adjusted correctly for that.
All right, I was just curious to see if there was some kind of licensing that was gonna change or whatever.
But I'll take a look
Cool.
at that and make sure it's
Yeah.
right. Any other questions on the specifics here? Okay. All right. Water fund, there's going to be a 3% increase in the rates for the resolution. Revenues and expenditures are going to be lower because the street project is wrapping up. The SCADA project, that's planned for next year. It's going to get started a little bit this year with engineering, I believe. Is that correct, Shane? SCADA project? Is it starting this year?
It's planned for this year. Actually, I have another budget, or not budget, agenda item here, 9A7 that we added that deals with this, so that's why I put it on tonight's agenda. So I just got that last Friday, which could change that number. Nothing's 100% on that yet, so.
All right. And then you'll see that we're drawing down $150,000 in fund balance to help cover SCADA costs. So I just wanted to make that clear as well.
Now, when you say supplemental accounts, that's that sewer fund that grew through the years because
This is actually the water fund.
this is water. So we have a supplement account specifically for water, we have a supplemental account specifically for sewer.
It's just a funny, it's a
Sewer.
funny name. I'm not sure why we have it titled supplemental accounts, but it's basically fund balance that's being drawn down. So maybe we have like a $600,000 balance in the water fund, and we're just going to use $150,000 of that balance.
So we're spending water supplemental accounts on water charges.
Correct. Yep. All right, sewer?
I'm sorry, one more question.
Oh, yep.
If we're running that kind of, are we gonna continue at the current rates to run that kind of deficit? Or will that deficit kind of take care of itself about the time we run out of the supplemental funds? Our bonds will have expired, is that? I mean, we can't continue to pull out of that a deficit forever, right?
Right. Well, I mean, SCADA lasts for a long time, and then the next thing we're looking at is like street projects to use these water funds.
All right, so that's why it's successful business first year is the SCADA. All right, I got it.
Right. Yeah, it's not something we want to keep doing.
Okay.
And I mean, we had a $410,000 one budgeted for this year, but I don't think we're going to be spending that because we're not doing SCADA this year. Well, we might be. I don't know. Okay. So sewer, there's going to be an 8% increase per the resolution of the council. Once again, revenues and expenditures will be lower. And then there's an increase in special assessments, and that's due to the Center Street and the Phase 3A2 assessments starting. So you see that here, going up from a $65,000 budget up to a $135,000 budget in the revenue special assessments. Any questions on that slide?
When you have, so in the general fund, there was this pretty large jump in miscellaneous revenue due to interest income.
Right.
Is that delegated out? Because the interest is on some of these supplemental funds then too. Do the supplemental funds get their portion of that interest, or do we just take that interest and keep it all in general?
Well, it's all attributed to, well, there are portions like the money that we have set aside to pay for the construction projects. That money was invested, and that interest was applied to the sewer fund, to the water fund.
Gotcha.
But then the other amount's just general fund. Like what we are investing from our like general checking, that is just going into the general fund. Okay. Storm sewer is going to be $1 per month increase per resident, and then assessments are going up, and the debt service will be increasing, and you can see that on the water and sewer as well. They're under expenditures, the debt service will be going up.
Those assessments, they are for our street project, they're going to be applied in 2024. Individuals, residents will start getting those assessments on their taxes.
Correct.
Okay.
There'll be a hearing this fall on that. Kyle might have more information on that.
What's that?
Hearing, there'll be this fall for 3A2 and Center Street projects.
So residents will be expecting in 2024 to see it if they were affected by street projects in front of their homes.
Correct.
They'll see a.
Everybody will be on that list.
Hmm?
All the proper homes will be on that list, so we don't miss any.
All right. Next, we have solid waste fund. And the contract we have with Southwest Sanitation continues through 2026. And like I mentioned before, I'd like to increase garbage charges by 3% annually, just in case a future contract is higher. And that would avoid any sort of drastic increase in charges. And it's up to you guys. It's just an idea. And then the full profit, you could say, from the solid waste is transferred to the general fund at the end of the year.
I did see that, and I'm a little concerned about that. So if we transfer that into the general fund, and would this 3% increase also go into the general fund? My concern is we may spend it.
Right.
Not realizing those funds are set aside to offset an increase, and then we get the increase, and then we're going, we don't have the money any longer.
Well, it's not.
Could that be a supplemental account?
I mean, we could, but the idea is to offset the increase when they do go up. It's not setting aside money. It's so that say rates go from for a customer, the cost goes from $10 to $12. The idea is that say right now we're charging customers $11, that we could get up to $13 above the new $12 amount by the time charges go up.
Yeah, I don't know that I would be in favor of that. But if these funds were collected to offset an increase in that first year, I could understand doing that. But if all we're trying to do is train citizens to get used to an increase without actually using those funds to offset a true cost, I don't think I could support
I
that.
think that's deceptive.
I think citizens would understand when the contract comes due in '26, if they increase the contract by 5%, we're going to have to pass on that 5% increase.
Okay.
If all of a sudden we say, okay, we signed this new contract for a 5% increase, we're not going to sit there and go back because we have this extra money. We're more or less having citizens pay us some extra money for the sanitation, it's just an additional city tax. Is how I view it.
But there's been no expense
And it
that
was
would
a,
justify
Yeah.
it was a
so.
nice idea so that you didn't have this drastic thing.
And it's not necessary by any means.
Yeah.
It was just an idea, so that kind of like a property tax, like you get your property tax in the mail, and all of a sudden you're getting charged 10 or 20% more than the last year, and that hits you hard. Whereas if it's like this, would be an increase of a quarter a year or something. But if you guys don't, I'll scratch it.
Well, I think you have a good
It was a
idea,
good
but
idea,
we need to keep the extra money in that account, so when the raise does come, we can use it for that. Just throw it in the general fund.
Yeah, because it wouldn't be there, so we'd still have to increase the rates of the citizens, whatever percentage our contract goes up, because there isn't that saved money there. It's now gone into the general fund, and
We
We could set aside the 3% within the solid waste fund.
Because what you're just doing is padding the general fund. And then when we actually have the increase, now the general fund, you're gonna go, oh, now we've gotta make some cutbacks because we were padding that account really with garbage.
With garbage.
Are they charging us a fuel surcharge now when fuel getting so high?
The Southwest Sanitation? No.
They just had a flat rate, no matter what the fuel was.
Yeah. So, would you like me to scratch that? Sounds good. All right. Continuing on. Liquor store. Revenues and expenditures are lower due to taxes being shifted to a liability account. So, this general taxes, you see this year, next year, we're looking at a zero amount because when we charge people taxes at the liquor store, that's not revenue. We're not keeping it. We're just holding it until the 20th of the next month when we have to pay the state that money. So I changed it from expense and revenue to liability because it's in and out. And then you also will see it, where's it at? Yeah, I'm missing it too. It was in supplies. It's a strange spot, strange category for taxes, but they added in the supplies category. So that's why supplies is so much lower. All right. Continuing on. Airport fund. Budgeting a $50,000 transfer from the general fund to cover the deficit. So that gives us a small positive amount in the net change in fund balance for 2024. You don't want to have a negative amount. especially when the airport doesn't have a fund balance to spend. And then there's a large capital outlay due to the new hangars. You see that under expenditures, capital outlay. We're looking at $917,000 next year. And then we're using $160,450 in fund balance. So once again, that's down in the bottom portion, supplemental accounts, $160,450. That amount is being transferred this year from the sewer fund. Any questions there? All right. Next slide, Deputy Registrar. Since it's an enterprise fund, we're just going to be transferring the cash flow to the general fund. We don't have all enterprise funds, but liquor store, deputy registrar, solid waste, whatever profit we get, we transfer to the general fund. And there's going to be a higher transfer budgeted in 2024 due to increased revenue from fees. I've mentioned that before, that the state increased the amount of fees we get to charge people. I think before the transaction fee, or it has been $7, it's going to be going up to like $11 for every transaction that we process. So that's going to give us quite a bump in revenue.
So this $1.2 million supplies is the actual cost that the state charges that we then send to the state.
Correct.
How come we don't have any personal services in this particular? I mean, the liquor store has personnel services, the airport does, even the HRA. You don't have any personnel services.
In other words, employee salaries?
I would assume that's what that is. We have no employee costs underneath this one to see what our actual income is, or?
Yeah,
It'd be
in the
very
past,
difficult to allocate that exactly, I would think.
Yeah, because it's, I mean, the gals in the office, they jump from one thing to the other all day long, so it'd be hard to track that exactly.
And there's no benefit. It's not that we get paid from the state for what our costs are at all, correct?
right.
But yet we don't really have a good idea whether it cash flows.
Because we're offering a service, are we making money on it, or breaking even, or losing?
Be nice to know.
I wish you could, I thought,
I can
Eric
tell
had
you
said
from-
that we made money, that it was
Well-
a money maker, but I don't know that he
I don't
detailed
see
what.
it here.
Yeah, the revenue over expenditures is the 73,000, and then that's what gets transferred over to the general fund, correct?
Correct.
So whatever the
salaries.
profits goes to the general fund,
Which pays salaries.
yes. And I can tell you, making people break their time out depending on what duties they're doing, sometimes it makes them more less
I
productive,
wouldn't,
because it's guessing.
Yep.
We have to do it at the hospital, but it benefits our reimbursement
Well, I mean, even if we did
for
a
different
percentage,
departments.
I
if
bet
we
you
did a
could-
percentage and said 30% of this
Yeah.
person and 40%, at least we would know whether it's cash flow.
But you're
Otherwise,
gonna
I mean,
have those people there.
I just think that running a business, we don't know whether, we show a $73,125 profit. I doubt very much that is a profit.
Right. because
It's a good
there's
point.
Employee expenses, but I think we're kind of splitting
Well,
hairs here.
I
Then
don't
you,
think so. I
then
think-
you want personnel things put in the sewer fund and everything else, because when they do the water bills, you're having somebody do that all day. You want to break it out that small, or you just want to let it roll? Because if you want to start putting it in the personnel, then or the sewer, then the sewer's not making as much money. But then the general fund's going to be up.
I think when we hire a new city administrator, we can ask him if we want him to allocate, make those estimates, and that'd be a job for him if we want to do that.
They used to be separate before we switched programs. Then it got to be a mess on the payroll program, because you'd have, because just in the office you have water, you have sewer,
But we
storm
do,
sewer garbage.
okay, you said, would we want to break that out for sewer and water? We did. There's personnel services in sewer, there's personnel services in water, there's personnel services, every other account we have has personnel services. How'd you figure out how much went into those then? If some of those people do all of the above.
Because like Gary would be part sewer, part water.
I don't see
Unallocated.
personnel services under the sewer, the
Sewer
solid
utilities.
waste.
Which one are you talking about?
Solid waste.
Sewer utilities.
Storm sewer, there isn't.
Water, there is.
Solid waste, there isn't.
The sewer.
I'm looking at sewer utility and there's 66,517.
Yeah, I was looking at storm sewer. This word sewer came.
I'm just throwing it out, so we can decide
No,
later
it
at
is a
budget
good
So
meeting.
part of my wage,
I don't think people would have to log every 15 minutes what they're doing. I think you can do an approximation percentage.
My salary is allocated based on a percentage.
yeah, so is mine,
There's a lot.
yeah, so is Gary's. Because he's basically water and sewer. He's very little street. Or the rest of my guys are all street or cemetery or parks or whatever. So the ones that are known, that are in that utility, those are allocated in there. Is how it was set up, and that's all based on percentages.
And I think the reason why we haven't done a percentage in this one is because there's no way to create a percentage. We have days where one person walks in there, and then we have days where it's busy all day long, and maybe there might be even 2 people working on the front desk for an hour or 2. Normally we just have 1 up front, but it gets busy, we'll get 2 up front. And so it's, the way I look at it is that this is paying for at least one of our employees there in the office. It's kind of how I look at it. And I don't think that we have one employee working on DMV stuff all the time. We definitely don't. So
And it
I like
does
the- I like
take
the
more
point, though.
administrative time when you're having now people do this, because it has to then collect, I say it, because I don't know, payroll or whoever, has to then combine that to make sure, okay, this many hours are charged to here, and then you have to combine it all for a paycheck. So you-
The question I'd have for that, probably would be nice to know that, but what difference will it make? Are we gonna quit it?
It's been privatized in other cities.
Well, it used to be private here, going back enough years, and the city decided it was a good thing to accept that responsibility, otherwise we wouldn't have a deputy registrar.
Just a question. All right.
I thought it was a good point, Tom. Thanks. All right. Public housing. We're projecting a deficit in 2024. And in my budget, I talked this over with Jeff about raising rates at Orchard Lanes. And so this budget includes a $50 increase in the monthly rents at Orchard Lanes. And we're still running a $13,000 deficit, even with that $50 a month increase. And this is something we can talk about at the next budget meeting. But whether we want to do that increase, whether we want a $50 increase or a $100 increase, but this gives you kind of a middle of the road idea. We'd still be losing $13,000 a year in the public housing fund. And if every $50 increase is about $5,000 in revenue, $4,800 in revenue.
So when you're saying we have a deficit, that would include like snow removal, lawn care, that sort of thing?
Yep.
Prorated on, right?
Taxes in lieu, or,
Well, it's all public housing.
yeah, and if we know,
Well, we have this one, we have last.
To a certain extent, though, this deficit is based on an allocation, kind of some arbitration allocation of someone's salary for personnel services. So it's kind of that same issue we've been talking about, is that exactly right? If we made that less, then we could pretty easily show positive margin.
Jeff.
And is this now reflecting our dollars that we pay for in lieu of property taxes? Is that now calculated in?
Yes, that's included.
Is that why the 43 expected went down to 20,000 in the services and charges?
I'd have to look at the detail for that and get back to you. I'm not positive.
I'd just be curious what went down.
Because
that
we
much.
haven't been paying those in lieu of taxes for several years, so
I
then
think
it would
that
look
would-
like we had more of a profit.
I think that is why, because it was slated for $17,000 in 2022, and then it went up to $37,000 this year. I think that's after I put in the budget amendment,
Just that catch up,
that 21,000 catch up,
but that was for like 2 or 3 years.
Right.
So, okay.
and penalties. So yeah, you're right. So that's why we're going from 17,000 up to 20,000.
Okay.
All right. The EDA, projecting a large deficit in 2024, and we're looking at like a $43,000 deficit. And the EDA has enough fund balance to support itself for another 2 to 3 years.
This is without any annual contribution to the EDA revolving loan fund, or where is our deficit coming in? What's causing it?
Continuing to give out loans, correct?
Giving out the loans, and then also the money that we brought in for one of the apartments that we sold. We've been going through that money through salary, my salary, and no money coming in from the city council into that fund.
So where is that shown? Because it's not under personnel services.
Mine is split out, what Tom's talking about here, mine is split out. We split mine out for 4 years now. Chris did it, I did it, and Eric did it, everybody has done that.
But it's not coming out of the EDA.
I don't know, there's gotta be something in there for the EDA part of it. Or is EDA as a whole and they're splitting it out, because it's community development, multipurpose center, Orchard Lanes.
The pool.
Yeah, wherever else that it would go to.
I mean, $500 doesn't seem to be much for personnel.
Right.
That would be you working an hour.
For a few.
And then, okay, so what miscellaneous revenue was coming in there in 22 and 23 budget, but then we didn't? It just ends. There's no miscellaneous revenue projected for
Here, I could
expected.
pull up the detail.
And are we getting in too much detail where you're not prepared that this is more for our budget session?
It would be, I said it'd be better for the budget session. I mean, they're great questions. I want to answer them now, but I have to refer to the Excel spreadsheet.
How much was the deficit? How much was it going down since 22?
It was 35 and then 25 and then gone.
Well, that 35 is in thousand?
Yep.
Yeah, that would be that'd be O'Brien Court money coming in through leases, and we don't have it anymore.
And you erased everything.
Then it just is gone.
It's gone.
Yeah, it's gone now.
It's sold.
That would make sense.
Thanks.
Now, why it went from 35 to 24, I think you said, I don't know.
25.
Probably.
That was just budgeted.
Partial year or, oh, that's true, it's budgeted, we never actually collected it all.
All right.
And then,
Continuing on, we're to our last slide. Just have an updated schedule on our debt service. It looks happier now, I think. Before our debt service was like going up like a cliff, and then way in the future it was starting to go down. Now it's like, okay, 2024 we're here, 2025 is only $6,000 more, and then we see the light at the end of the tunnel. So
Yeah, but then there's more street projects coming.
Sorry.
We'll catch our breath here.
Yep.
I would like to back up with just a question.
Sure.
Back to Orchard Lane, we need to make that cash flow itself. But my question is, since, and when I first was on council, they did what it needed to do to cash flow. But then when we pulled the city crew in to do the work, then we started to run short again. So what I'm wondering is, are we budgeting too much of the city crew's time out there in overtime and whatever during snow removal than we would if we went back to just leasing it out to somebody come in and do the snow removal on the grass? Because it's a well-known fact, I think, in my mind anyway, by having the city crew do the work out there with the snow especially, we're paying them overtime for it because they're putting more hours in to do that.
I haven't seen any overtime.
I didn't mean necessarily you.
I'm the one that does it.
Well, you can't do
The
something
cost-
else then.
The cost to do the snow removal there, I think, was 12,000, I think.
It was less than 12, it was 11,000 something is what we had figured it out compared to what it was before. We tried to do a 3-year comparison from what we were spending on the amenities that they were bringing in, lawn care, snow removal and everything else, and that's what we started doing it in-house and then transferring the money from, that's what the transfer is on my sheets anyway, the transfer from one to another.
So
Well, I don't mean, it doesn't make sense, but
costs have gone up for, was it 3 years now we've been doing our own maintenance there? So since COVID, basically, those costs are gonna be at least what's budgeted here. I don't think you're gonna find it any cheaper by outsourcing it, but, I mean, it'd be less staff time, but it would be, by the same expense out of that fund.
But I think your comment is well served, that it should cash flow.
yeah.
Whatever we put in expenses, income, it still should come closer to cash flow, and it should not be a supplemental.
Isn't there a rate increase coming next year? We want that in?
We looked into it in March, just like we did it 2 years ago.
Yeah.
We said there, and we weren't gonna do anything for 23, and then it would be March of 24. That's what Tyler and I already went over on what we were gonna do, the increase there.
Okay.
Also gotta remember, that's 25 is when that gets paid off too, so.
And so if we were to do $100 increase, which Jeff seemed fine with, that's what our prior increase was, we'd be looking at a deficit closer to 8,000. So not quite as extreme.
So that $100 would be the first increase in 2 years?
Correct. Yeah, it was last increased in 2022.
So
this increase would be in 2024.
I don't think that's out of the question.
No, I don't think
To
so.
keep pace with what, well, I looked at, like, the 3 bedrooms are like 1,150 or,
It's more than that. Ryan Court for a 2-bedroom and no garage.
I think that's a big deal.
Any other questions or comments?
Will we kind of set that then at the budget meeting? What we'll do?
I can bring the,
Well,
We won't set the preliminary budget until the end of September. That's when we'll set the levy, because that's when it has to be certified. It has to be certified by the end of September, so we'll set that, but this is kind of a preliminary discussion going into the budget
Like for the
session.
residents out there.
Yep.
well, I can bring the fee schedule to the next meeting, and that has detail on the fees that we charge for everything here in the city.
And
think
so
it's
that-
half.
This-
Yeah, we've got that.
this
Oh, you
whole
guys
thing-
got it.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah.
My suggestion is, rather than go through this at our council meeting, could we set up a ad hoc committee of not to exceed 3 members and some staff to look through this thing and bring it up to date and come back with some, I don't want to go through everyone.
Yeah, it's a lot of lines.
I guess in the past, we went with the recommendation from the city staff, because like the ones that they've changed are the highlighted ones.
But I guess that's my question, is why are we choosing some and not some others in here? I don't know, I haven't looked at in detail, but there does seem to be some.
I would say if you have concerns about a certain line item, just let us know and we can review it.
Okay.
Compare it to another city or, some of those we go off of like federal costs too, like our street maintenance equipment, for instance, we kind of follow the federal scale too, because in order for us to get reimbursed on grants for use of that equipment, such as the airport, which is why we added the mower on there, because it wasn't on there and we can't charge it out unless it's on the fee schedule. So some of that stuff follows the federal guidelines or the state guidelines on what we can charge.
Okay.
Some of them are just local fees, for whatever license it may be. So.
Yeah, I just went through item by item and looked at past fee schedules and when the last time was that it was increased, and you'll see a lot of the ones that I did increase were ones that weren't increased since like 2017, and it just seemed reasonable to charge a little bit more. All right.
Good job, thank you.
If you have any questions that you want him to research, let me know before the budget meeting. If you have something in mind where he needs to be prepared better for, I guess. I'm sure you'll have all your spreadsheets and details with you, but
it'd be great to have your questions beforehand, and I can prepare a really, really good answer.
server access isn't the greatest in the library basement, so.
And I just discovered that when I put my spreadsheet on another computer, it doesn't seem to work because it's linked with our software. So it'd be great to prepare beforehand. All right, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Tyler.
Good job.
Thanks.
We got infrastructure at Wheels Across the Prairie. Yep.
Okay, so I brought this up in the last couple of meetings. I've talked to most of you, if not all of you, individually on this, and now we've come to the point where we need to start making a decision if it's something we want to do. Just to recap it a little bit, we have our ARPA monies that are sitting in the county, unlike the money that we have for, is it SCADA? SCADA. That's money sitting with the county. Our money, the $200,000 is sitting with the county right now. That is due. That's right at the level of what the population is. So that's where that $200,000 comes from. It might be a little bit more. It might be a little bit less. We have to present. I know we have to present any kind of bills. It has to be for infrastructure, some kind of street project, some kind of water, some kind of sewer. It has to be for something that is in that that realm of something we can do for the city. So we all seen the email, and we know what the situation is at the museum, the Wheels Across the Prairie Museum, and so kind of what I'm looking for tonight is just your thoughts on it. I've kind of given you the just what's going on with that money, how we get it. There's a few questions that I have for the county yet. I know we have to use that money up by 2026, which is a long ways away. But for this particular project, I need to know now whether or not it's something we want to use a percentage of the money for, a small percentage of the money for. Just to give you a little bit more update is I've already talked to a couple of the county commissioners, and they would be looking for a presentation from myself and anybody that is dealing with the museum out there on what needs to be done, why it needs to be done, and we're starting to prepare that now. But I need to first, before I go any further, are we willing as a city to do, the $20,000? If you look at the sheets that were given to you there, they're estimates from two different locations, Wilkes Plumbing and TE Underground, which both of those together would come out to right at about that $20,000. We did find out they did find out out there, I didn't do anything with that their septic system is probably not going to pass compliance either through the state, and that's going to be another $15,000 on there. So at one point, now this is just a speculation from a couple of the city or the county commissioners, that that since it is a museum, it is in the county, obviously, that they might be willing to put some money into it also. I don't know how much that is. Ken has been instrumental on all this. In fact, he put all of this together. I didn't do any of this. So we're going to have him up here in just a little bit, and I know the board out there at the museum is actually going to be meeting here pretty soon, or maybe they already have. That they feel that they can find some money also to put into this, to maybe get it all done or at least partial done. If you need to be updated on that, there is no water lines that go out there. Everything is. They have a cistern, correct? Ken, come on up, Ken. You're fine.
For Ken, when you talked to the commissioners, or did you ask specifically if the septic system, this holding system, would qualify as infrastructure?
That's what we're going to ask. That was late. I think I know what you're asking.
Because I mean, the water coming from us out to their infrastructure, but improvement of the property without hooking up to sewer doesn't seem like infrastructure. If they feel it's infrastructure and are releasing the funds, it's a whole different story.
And if they're releasing their own funds is what that we're looking for possibly in that there, or the just like the the money that we still potentially have sitting there for a lift here in the city hall here. They have that that in their discretionary fund or wherever they were going to get that. So no, those would be the questions. I just didn't want to get any further from making the presentation to them, because they would like also a presentation from Val also and myself and whoever wants to come with for what's going on in Tracy in the last couple of years too.
So we got $200,000 possibly coming from the county, and you're thinking that you'd like to use 20,000 of that?
I'm thinking that's a number. It came out to with these two estimates from their bids estimates. That was what that came out to, and we thought it was going to be coming out pretty close to that $20,000. So that's where.
Just the water.
Yeah, that's just the water.
The water.
That's the water line coming from the Dairy Queen corner there, all the way over.
So then we would still have $180,000.
$180,000.
To use on some other project.
Right.
I think I've asked you this question, but I'll ask it again. None of that money can be used for fixing the bathrooms in this facility.
Nothing on a building, nothing on any kind of structures or anything. It has to be, it's infrastructure. It's dedicated to that and that alone.
But it may not be 20,000 that they need, depending on how much the.
Well, with the estimates here, it looks like it's pretty close. So it would be nice.
Compared to what the Lyon County might give us.
I don't know that. I've just communicated with them, so they're on board. They know we're coming. So we would be there the first Tuesday of September is when we'd go there and present to them.
Maybe they'd give enough for the sewer, though.
No matter what fund, because they have their own ARPA money, and I don't know if that would be coming out of that fund, if that even is a use of that money. If not, I don't know. That's what I wanted. I just wanted it all presented when we kind of found out, or Ken talked to me about the septic system and the rigmarole that they have to go through on a daily basis out there to move water around and that type of thing. It is in the city limits, and they don't have water.
So, with these bids, the second bid from Wilkes Plumbing, that included, a tank and a tank full alarm,
That's part two.
That's not included in the 20,000.
No.
This would be in addition to the 20,000.
Yes. Yeah.
But you're not asking for anything with that?
No, I'm putting it on there. You put it on there. And this is what we're paying. This is what the museum can come up with, and we were looking for some help, and that's what we'll be doing.
But the 6 is in the 20,000.
Yes, the 6 and the 12.
And so what I would do is I'd also ask them when you're talking to the commissioners or whatever, I mean, it has installed a softener. some of those things are a little different than just running lines. Oftentimes, the infrastructure is running line to the curb.
No, I don't think this
Underground.
6,000 of the first bit of Wilkes,
They're
that's,
separate.
that's not included in the 15,000. The labor that's in the 15,000 is labor for the tanks and
Separate.
Yes.
it's not this
Right.
one.
No, I agree.
Okay.
And that's what we'd have to find out from the county. But there was just no reason to push this any further until we knew what was going on from this standpoint. We would need for just to do, we've already done some work, and Kyle and I've had a few meetings on that, and we're going to have more. But for us to do some damage at Industrial Park, we'd be looking at it's called an infrastructure grant, and that's what DEED gives out for. If you're willing to put money into an industrial park, there's a lot of matching. So and we can use this. I do know that we can use this money, federal money, for the infrastructure grant for the. Am I using that correctly, Kyle? It's an infrastructure grant that we'd be looking for there.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
maybe
it
I'll
is.
follow up with that with you in the county, but yeah,
Yep.
that's what my understanding is. I'm fine with putting up the 20 for that, but I'm not touching any more until we figure out what we're doing at the industrial park, because I want that 180 or whatever is going to be left sitting there.
And we have that through 2026.
I
We just
know,
gotta
but
keep pushing
it
on
keeps
that.
getting mentioned for project after project after project, where we're down from 200 to 180, the next project comes through, we'll be down to 150. It just is tempting money for everything.
Well, and it sets kind of a pattern. We've set now a new standard where we had to all set aside. I'm not saying that I'm not supportive of the 20, but you know what I'm saying is
Yep.
once you started, someone else comes forward, well, you did this, and the sooner we can, I think the sooner we can present to the county what we're going to use and get it set up, that those funds are committed. I know we can't get the funds until something is done, but I think the sooner we get on their agenda of how we're going to spend the money, the better we're going to set up.
The initial maps and the initial engineer's report will be a part of the report that we will go through with that. It'll not only be that, hopefully that first Tuesday, it'll be just an update on what's going on here in Tracy, but also it'll be an update on this, and that will be a part of it.
So for the $20,000, so we're all on the same page, gets the water to the wheels.
Yep.
And it also gets it up to the buildings,
To the
right?
buildings, one building is all, I believe. Isn't that right, Ken?
Just one building.
Just one building. Just to get it further than that, obviously, everything was more money.
No, I mean, and then there'd have to be some way does heat stay on all the time out there all winter long and everything too, or would you have to have some way of draining it?
There's heat in the main barn.
Okay.
55, I think, is about as low as we let it go, so.
And that's where it would be running to. Is
And that's where the
main
meter would be. Yep.
And I would support the 20 as well. The wheels is really important. It's a cornerstone of Tracy. I think it'd be money well spent.
Do you need a resolution or what do we do?
Well, I think it's contingent on the county, right?
Yep. So I
would
could come
say-
back with that, and it's not, I think that's something that we'd want to get started on this year. I don't know I don't know, you can maybe answer that better than I can on what the availability of the two parties that gave the estimates. Are they able to do that in September, October?
I would say that from the plumber's point of view, for sure, and maybe T&E too, that the water table is likely to be lowest probably in that fall time period as compared to in the spring. And I mean, you don't want to dig a deep hole when the water table is a couple feet from the surface, because it's full of water right away. So you got to pump it out, and then you got to work in it, and So it's kind of messy. So from T&E's point of view and Wilking's point of view, and end of September, first part of October is probably the best time for them to do it, but it all depends on everybody agreeing to do it also. But that would be kind of their timetable, I believe.
But now thinking about it, Dave, to answer your question, or I think you're doing the answer to it, I mean, it would be kind of nice for me to be able to say, yes, that was voted on and $20,000 was dedicated from the ARPA money to this particular project. I mean, it'd be nice to be able to walk in there and say, well, now I got to come back here and get an okay, and before I don't want to have to go back there again on the third Tuesday of the month. When
does the county meet?
They meet on the first and the third Tuesdays, so they meet tomorrow for the second meeting of the month already.
Is this getting brought up tomorrow?
No, I want to put together they'll know, they'll have everything.
So I would maybe do a motion for now, and then if the county approves it, then follow up with a resolution.
I would move
So I-
that,
oh, go ahead.
I would move that we apply to the county for funds to bring water to Wheels, not to exceed at this juncture 20,000 for their approval.
Using that money, not having to come up out of the general fund.
I'll second that.
The first and second, any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Arvizo,
Yes.
Teigs,
Aye.
Dobson,
Yes.
Schultz,
Aye.
Langley,
Aye.
Mayor Cormick.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, new business, 9A1, resolution 2023-70, PFA Rural Development Water Infrastructure Fund Matching Grant. So this is what we've been waiting for funding for Center Street. It's already been allocated to us, but we couldn't do the grant process until they settled at the state, which was done in July. So now they're getting to the point where they're ready for our application now to get this processed, hopefully next month, so we can get our money for Center Street. Right now we're cash flowing 2 going on 3 pay apps now for the PFA portion of this, so we're going to be needing those funds here real soon. So this is say just a resolution allowing us to enter into that grant agreement. Do you have any questions on that?
I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2023-70, the PFA Rural Development Water Infrastructure Funding Match Grant.
Second that.
Anybody have any questions on that before we do roll call? Roll call, please.
Langley,
Aye.
Teigs,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
Arvizo,
Yes.
Dobson,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Mayor Cormick.
Aye.
Okay, resolution 2023-71 for pay application number 3 for RNG for Center Street project. This is monthly, based on the work completed, part of the contract. If you have any questions on that.
I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2023-71, the pay application number 3.
I'll second that.
Wait, I have a question. So we decided that we're gonna go ahead and pay them for the sign and then just wait and deal with them?
That's the next one.
Well, isn't this pay app right
No.
here?
That's what
Don't
you
change order. It's kind of confusing how it's written.
I
Does
think
that
It says pay up
application
3.
include the change order or not?
Actually, this one does. Yeah.
We can
If you want to flip them around and discuss number 1 right
Yeah.
now, if you'd like.
Yeah.
We got resolution 2023-59 to approve change order number 1 for Center Street. This is a change order that's been tabled twice now, I think,
It has to do with the signs, right?
for discussion. We'll let Kyle.
Yep, so just continuing the discussion from last month on that is regarding the signs that were added to the work after the bid amount. So the contractor had sent in that additional pricing for the additional signs that added after that bid. At the last meeting, there were questions on, is that amount something that would have been part of that original bid or not, or who should bear that? And I guess there's still, I guess, a feeling to some degree that there would have been a higher cost with the original bid had those signs been in the bid plans. But either way, we've got the contractor's invoices to go off at this point, and that's really what it is. It's not a bid number like during the bidding. So either way, it was asked, the council asked if there's something that ISG would help with on that. I guess at this point, I would suggest or recommend or ask the question of, I think if ISG helps cover that additional mobilization piece of it, that $1,000, and then the remaining balance of that be split. So it will be something along the lines of 3,900 project and 5,000 ISG. If I'm open to the discussion, if that's not, okay with the city, we're willing to help cover whatever the dollar amount is on this one. We don't want to have any sour grapes here, an issue, but we're, I guess, open to your recommendation on how to move forward with that one.
Give me that number again.
5,000 ISG
Okay.
and 3,900 the city.
Yeah, ballpark. I mean, again, whatever it is, we're fine with helping cover. So, like I said, we don't want there to be any issues there. So whatever the city recommends at this point, we're okay with.
I think I'd be all right with that.
I guess I think I would too, because like you said, there would be additional cost. Probably not quite as much if we could have had it right in the bid to start with, but
I think that's a very reasonable offer.
well, reasonable offers if they take care of it all.
And did he not just say that they're willing to do that if we were not okay with this?
We got to be fair. I think mistakes sometimes happen.
So how does that actually operate? Because, I mean, technically speaking, we need to pay this change order, and we need to approve it probably tonight, if at all possible, because from what I understand, the contractor who installed the signs is not getting paid from RNG yet, because RNG didn't get paid, and that's just not fair.
All right.
Do we approve this and then figure the details with, I think, what we have in the minutes?
So we'd approve this and then we'll work out the details between RSG or ISG, combining RNG and ISG. But ISG and the city would come to an agreement on, as they just did, with covering the cost, the additional cost.
So a compromise.
Yeah, because the contract's with us as a city, not with ISG, so we have to be the ones paying RNG for the amount regardless. If that makes sense. Right, Kyle? Yeah.
Well, I'd make that a motion then, that we agree to the terms of 3,900, the city's responsibility. We have to pay it all, I get that, but with the strong feeling that ISG is going to come through with the 5,000.
Okay, wait, I have a question. So if ISG is going to pay the $1,000 mobilization, right, you said? And then we're splitting the balance of it? How does ISG only have 5,000 and we have 39?
It's for the sign portion.
Yeah, because the other half was that
The drop manhole.
manhole price.
The council already agreed on that on a prior meeting to do that portion, so it was the signage that was in question.
Is that what you're looking
The
for?
change order, it said it was,
I think the total change order was about 15,000.
It was 15,000, but 7,900 was the,
it says 8856 was the traffic control part of it. Right, so 8,900 was the traffic control part of it.
Yep.
Does that include the 1,000?
Yeah.
sticky amount?
Yep.
They're doing 5 and then we're doing 39, so that's the 89.
Yeah.
But if you think about that, they're,
And we're paying for the drop manhole, so it's all,
okay.
Which part's not making sense to you? Which part's not making?
It's fine.
You sure?
Mhm.
We want you to understand.
No, it's fine.
before we do another, for the 5,000, we just need to approve 71 to pay the whole thing. Then we can do another motion for the, who's paying what.
Well, do we do 59 first, then 71? Or does 71
So
take care
we'll
of
approve
59?
Resolution 2023-59 to approve change order number 1 for $15,906.22.
So I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
A first and second, any further discussion on that? Roll call, please.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Jones. Aye. Landau,
Aye.
Teagues,
Aye.
Arviso,
Yes.
Dobson,
Yes.
Mayor Corman.
Aye.
So then should we just do 71 as it's written?
Yeah, we can do 71 as written now, but
So I had the motion on the floor before for that one, so should we just
George
leave it? And George seconded it?
Yep.
Any further discussion on that one? Roll call, please.
Teagues,
Aye.
Landau,
Aye.
Arviso,
Yes.
Dobson,
Yes.
Jones,
Aye.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Mayor Corman.
Aye.
Now you can make your motion for to split the payout.
Okay. Thank you, Diane.
Who gets the second?
I do.
All right.
First and second, any other discussion for that?
You got it all down, Diane?
I
What
think
is?
so.
Do we need to roll call that too?
Yep.
Okay, roll call.
Arviso,
Yes.
Dobson,
Yes.
Landau,
Aye.
Teagues,
Aye.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Jones,
Aye.
Mayor Corman.
Aye.
All right.
RNG will be happy with us finally.
Thank you.
Resolution 2023-72. Got another pay application in the mix now. Number 1 for M&R paving for the pipelining project. This is their first pay application for their line item work on that project. So
Now, is that
moving along pretty good.
is that big pump truck that's in town and then there's like
Yeah.
a van that goes along with it?
Yep.
They did some work out in Broad Acres, that's a part of it too?
Yep.
Okay.
They did some digging out there too,
And then down
and
by.
a whole bunch of barrels on 14.
Yeah, is
Yeah,
that?
I wonder
Is
what they were
that-
for.
People keep asking me what
Some
that
on
is.
14, some in the ditch?
Yeah, most of them in the boulevard.
You got
gotta
blown
look-
over?
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I had about 5 phone calls a day. What are you doing on
I
Highway
know.
14?
Everybody kept asking me that too, and I thought, well, I don't know, maybe it's
Well,
the
and I
state
know
coming
that-
through.
The underground folks with cable stuff have been doing updates and running stuff through that. So I wasn't sure who was doing it.
So I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2023-72 pay application number 1 for M&R paving for the pipelining project.
With the first and second, do we have any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Dobson,
Yes.
Arviso,
Yes.
Landau,
Aye.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Jones,
Aye.
Teagues,
Aye.
Mayor Corman.
Aye.
I got one question for Kyle. How are we coming on the last lift, last year's projects?
So things in general are moving pretty quick, I think. There's some noticeable change on Street, but the plan right now is that and you've seen probably work over there too with all the barrels and cones. They've brought up the manhole castings, and the just big picture schedule right now is they'll be in at the end of this week finishing paving on Center Street, followed right behind with the 382 area paving. So the paving company will be in town, and I think they've got probably 6 days of work in a row. Finish paving, so the next week it's going to be pretty busy throughout town.
Are you and your people satisfied with the packing and stuff on Center Street.
They've been making a few repairs, and it should all be in the right direction.
Especially that corner of State Street. I'm gonna be a bugaboo with that corner, just like I was the hospital signs.
State and Center, got it down.
Tracy's second pond.
Yeah.
They do have the concrete waterway through there that's gonna help.
So what'll help there is that you'll see on a few of those areas where there isn't a lot of storm sewer inlets, the drains in that particular intersection, that's actually got a concrete kind of curb that connects one side of the intersection to another to help send that water down to the next one.
Where does that send, I mean, to Highway 14?
It goes
Is it ditch
south.
or what?
That area goes south to the south end of town. There's a county ditch by the railroad
Yeah.
tracks that
All
it
right.
picks up that way.
Up by the-
Instead of having plants in the potholes,
Then
they have floaties in
I was under the impression that there was only going to be sidewalk on one side of Center Street, but I did a no and drove down it, and I saw there was sidewalk on both sides, so it caught me off guard a little bit.
Yeah, I guess the original plan and discussion was that there was gonna be sidewalk back where the old sidewalk was, and additional filling in those few blocks on the one side that where there were gaps entirely, that there wasn't, you couldn't cross the street and keep going from the north end to the south end, so. The couple blocks on the east side that had sidewalk before still continue to get that back.
Early on.
That was
back
part
in-
of,
probably
that was
late-
part of some of the what the county covers is what was there in existing anyways, so.
Back in late 2020, the council decided to put all the sidewalks back like in kind. You know, because there's some that got removed, some that got added, and it kind of stirred up some issues. And at that point, they said, we're just gonna do it like in kind. The only addition on here is to continue
Making
that
that
one
connection
side.
so that you have a sidewalk to work on the entire way, one side or the other.
And the homeowners down on the other end of town going to be told when they need to have their vehicles off,
Yeah,
because they're not gonna be able to drive.
There'll be signs and we'll be putting out some notices. Yeah, there'll be some notifications open to, if there's something in particular you'd like to see, certainly help
I just
out with
wanna
that.
know when they're gonna
Yeah.
be doing it, so I'm not stuck in my garage. I go to back out to go to work and I can't because
Well, and
Yep.
then if
they're
it's.
putting the
No,
last lift
and
on.
in general, when they do this paving, they'll be in front of your house for a short amount of time, but you should be able to drive on it a half hour later or something like, it's not gonna be if you need to sneak in and out, but there'll be signs, we'll make sure to let people know. So
About garbage day.
that one I gotta check on.
Garbage
It's a good
truck
question.
on it, or-
Yeah, because that'll be like 4:35 in the morning. They're not gonna be paving at 4:30 in the morning, so
Yep.
whatever they've done before will be cooled enough to drive on,
Okay.
and whatever they haven't done, I mean, it's only gonna be whatever the thickness is.
How it is right now. Yep.
So people can put their garbage out on. Is that, that paving, the pipelining, you mentioned at some point in time that may not get done yet this year, we're not entirely sure on.
It's slated to get done this year.
It is, okay.
We're moving right along with that.
We just gave them an extension because of the time it took for us to know that we're gonna get the PFA grant that we approved on 981 here. To make sure that was in place before we expended this project, because if that money wasn't there, then we wouldn't have been able to do this project, so. But they came through, so.
Nice.
Yep.
Thank you, Kyle.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We do the approval resolution 2023-73, accept donation for Central Park sign, is that what they were talking about?
Yep.
And is that just left empty because they're just gonna wait till they know what the final cost is,
Correct, yeah.
is what I'm assuming?
So it'd be whatever the cost of the sign is, though. I think it was between $700 and $800. I think the estimate. Was it more?
That was like 1,200 or something.
Is it on a dual
Did it go
pole?
up? Maybe that was just a part of it.
Is it a dual pole and the signs in the middle?
So it's two galvanized posts, and then the sign just attaches, so.
Got it. I will make that a motion.
A second.
Anybody have discussion about that? We'll have roll call, please.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Arvisu.
Yes.
Teigs.
Aye.
Absent,
Yes.
Jones,
Aye.
Landite,
Aye.
Mayor Corman.
Aye.
This is a long and confusing resolution, but we got resolution 2023-74 for issuance and delivery of taxable GO utility revenue refunding bond, series 2023A, in the original aggregate principal amount of $8,399,000 to be issued to the USA through the Department of Agriculture. This allows the mayor and I to continue on with the closing of this, be the permanent USDA bond. Right now we have a temporary bond, so that's just rolling over, and actually the interest rate came back a little bit cheaper. It's like 1/8 or 1/4% cheaper, which saves us a few $1,000s a year, I think, in interest due over 40 years. So that was good news there too. So this is going to get closed out, and I think it starts on September 10th and carries through September 15th. I think is the final closing for it. So this just allows Mayor and I to do all the steps that's required for that closing in September.
Shane, do you recall what the interest rate is?
I think it's 2.125.
Yeah, it was a pretty good rate. Get a bunch more of that.
Mm-hmm. Especially with the rates right now.
Unfortunately, it comes with paying
And the payback's over 30 years?
40 years. Yep.
The road will be shot by then.
Get to do it all over again.
I have that goal, I gotta be optimistic.
I'll make a motion to approve 2023-74. I'm not reading the whole thing out.
You're welcome.
I will second that.
We have a first and a second. Anybody care to comment any more on this one? Roll call, please.
Landite,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Dobson,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Arvisu,
Yes.
Teagues,
Aye.
Mayor Corman.
Aye.
All right. Last but not least, we have resolution 2023-76, approved task order number 10, Bollig Engineering. So Bollig did our design for the SCADA, and obviously the budget makes a big dent in the budget, having no grant money for that. They were willing to do this back in March, but it was cut off short by the previous administrator of not allowing them enough time to find any funding for this. So we want to open this back up. They're doing this at no extra charge. We're just going to do it as part of our design for no extra fee, trying to find budget extra for our budget to find extra grant money for this project. It may be tied into a future bigger project if needed. Sometimes grant, we don't look at small amount. I mean, it's not a small amount for Tracy, but for funding agencies, it's kind of a small amount, so you might not even look at it. So you may have to tag it into like First Grade East or something like that. If we do find a decent grant for some reason, then we can get a project done for next to nothing, and probably gonna be a good fit. So this one allow them the opportunity, I think, deliverable 2024. So it just gives them a year to find some of this funding. There's a lot of stuff that's coming up in October for deadlines to apply for. And I think there's some other grant opportunities that maybe in early part of 2024 too, that they can try to get on our behalf for that, to help fund that project. We're not taking our fund balance out on it. I mean, it delays the project a bit. Things aren't getting any worse right now with SCADA. It's kind of just staying at the status quo it has been since.
Battery low.
They quit.
Me too.
That portion of it died in 2020. I mean, one more year, I'm willing to wait to see if we can get some grant money on here. Because what that grant money is going to do, if we can find enough grant, that amount is only for one phase of the project. So Eric had me separate it out. I'm really concerned about doing that because electronics change a lot in 1 or 2 years. So if you do this on a phase 1, 2, and 3 project, there's a chance you might not get, or you'll get a different bid from a different contractor who's not gonna link the 3 together.
Very well.
It's gonna be, I just see potential problems, and then we're gonna have what we have now. We have a 1989 system tied to a 2006 system done by 2 different contractors. And then something goes wrong, they're blaming the other person for it. You know, it's like, well, that ain't our system, that's your 1989 system acting up. Well, in some cases, it's not that case, but that's what they usually bring up, so.
And Pollock is gonna do all the chasing on this for us?
They would do, yeah, do everything they can to find the grant for it.
Okay.
So. And say at no additional cost, just. I move to approve resolution 2023-76, approve task order number 10 with Foley Engineering.
Second.
First and second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Landay.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Dodson.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Arvizo.
Yes.
Teagues.
Aye.
Mayor Condon.
Aye. Anybody else have anything else? I'm sure somebody willing to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
First and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. Why did, there you go.
Ain't gonna happen.
Give them those live.
Did.